be giving you a ride back from Concord.
What was that?
Okay, it being 6 o'clock, I'm going to call this meeting of the Chelmsford Select Board to order. It's March 28th, 2022. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, Ken, we have public service announcements.
So our first one is the local election is Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. The polls open at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. The deadline to register to vote for this local election is Wednesday, March 16th at 8 p.m. Due to the increase in population as reflected in the decennial census, Chelmsford added 2 additional precincts and 1 additional polling station. So you want to make sure you check your polling station and your precinct on the town website and make sure you're going to the right spot to vote. Precincts 1 and 2 are at the Senior Center. Precincts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are at McCarthy Middle School. 9, 10, and 11 are here at the town office gyms on the back side of the building downstairs. So that's our first one. Our second announcement, and I apologize to Sergeant Jim Curley. I was supposed to wear my Tricon hat for this, and I forgot it at home. But
Still have one more meeting.
Yep. The Chelmsford Minutemen Company invites the general public to join us in our 11th annual Patriots Day March from Chelmsford to Concord. Join the Chelmsford Minutemen, Boys and Girl Scouts, and fellow citizens in reliving that fateful day on April 19th, 1775, that thrust the colonies into the start of the American Revolution. Chelmsford Minutemen will be in our full outfit, complete with muskets and accoutrements, outfitted like our town sires were in 1775. Scouts that attend and do the walk will receive the rare Chelmsford Trail to Concord patch. The date is April 18th. We step off the common here in Chelmsford Center at 4 a.m. And we'll go down to Carlisle and then continue on to Concord. We end at the Minuteman National Park at the Old North Bridge in Concord at 9 a.m. And if you want to stick around afterwards, there's a parade. For all those that are interested, we'll see you on the Common on the 18th. And if you have any want further detail, you can reach out to the 6middlesex@gmail.com and for John Greenwood, our captain, or jcurley12 at comcast.net for our Sergeant Jim Curley.
Thank you, Ken. Up next, we have public input. Is there anyone who would like to speak during public input? Just a reminder, we need your name and address for the record.
Debbie Jerry, 19 Stedman Street, Precinct 6 Rep. I'm here this evening to make a request of the board. I was told by the planning board, I went to their meeting last week, and they have done their study, but they're only to the intersection of Stedman, Chelmsford Street, and Golden Cove. I guess what recently, within the last 2 months or so, there's been a large increase of freight trucks on Stedman Street. And actually, when I looked out my window the other day, there was a large freight truck carrying 6 cars. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I've been there for 47 years. So what I brought the subject up to the planning board, because I don't know what will happen with the anticipation of crookeds with what is going on, if they will get the permit for the 42 loading docks or not. They were talking about 150 trucks per day. That's 300 trucks. Now, that we all know they might not necessarily be taking Stedman Street, but it is the link to Lowell, and a lot of these trucks, because I've seen them before, they come from Tingsboro, and they go along the river, and they end up in front of my street. My request and the planning board that I had to come before you was to have the trucks weighed or forget. I believe that these trucks are doing damages to not only our streets, but to our homes. And they're very, very heavy trucks that are on our roadways right now. And they said they didn't do it. I am aware that our police department does not weigh, they don't have scales. So what I was told is I need to come here. I'm asking you this as a long-time resident who has seen an increase in traffic. I know it was 3 years ago this month that Sergeant Richardson had done a traffic study on our street. The average mile per hour at the time was 37 miles per hour. Granted, the trucks only drive as fast as what the traffic in hand will allow them to. But it's the weight of these trucks that I believe will end up destroying our pipes that are in our road, in our homes. They're very loud. And it isn't just one type of truck that we have. They're large freight trucks. I don't understand why. I don't know if it's because they don't want to go up to Drumhill that they're coming on our road. And actually, in reality, as I was coming down Golden Cove to come here this evening, they really can't take that type of weight either on that street. So I'm making this request, hoping that you will hear what I'm saying. Because if that plan goes through of 150 trucks going in and 150 trucks going out, I have no idea what we will have on our street. But I think maybe if we could limit the weight of the street, I know we cannot limit the trucks because we have direct access from the city of Lowell onto our street. And the same thing with the Golden Cove. But I think it might be time for us to look into the weight, and that's my request.
Thank you. So your request is
I'm requesting
looking into whether or not we can restrict weight and size. The weight
yeah.
on the roads.
They're very large trucks. I was counting the axles of these trucks, and it's not something that we've ever had on Stedman Street prior to now. We would see smaller trucks, but not the axles that are appearing on these trucks now. And the meeting that I did attend, and he was very correct, that did the study for the town of Chelmsford. He said the trucks usually occur early in the morning. And he's correct, because they stop before 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And I can testify to that because I hear them throughout the house. And then they stop.
You have about
And
30
they
seconds
stop.
left, Deb.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And then they stop a little bit. They start again after 9 o'clock. And then they stop. And he was correct when he said this. They don't want to be in that heavy traffic. So, and then it continues till maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it stops. So we are getting these large freight trucks during the day. This morning there was a big truck. I don't know what was going on. It might have been because it snowed, and they said there was some icy on the road. Backed up in front of my house, and I looked out, and there was this huge freight truck in the middle of all the traffic.
Okay.
I ordinarily wouldn't ask for this, but I think it might be time that we look into it before the planning board approves whatever they're going to approve,
Okay,
if they're going to have that many freight trucks. So I'd appreciate
We
if you
can't
take...
discuss it during public input,
All
but
right.
we'll definitely
I
make a
thank you
note of
very
it and
much
look
for
into
hearing
it.
me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
Anyone else who would like to speak during public input? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to committee vacancies.
So for the week of March 28, 2022, we have the following committee vacancies available for the town. The Arts and Technology Education Fund Committee has a 1 3-year term seat available. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, they're looking to fill 1 unexpired 3-year term and 1 3-year term. The CC Advisory Committee has 2 1-year terms. Commissions on Disability has 1 open unexpired 3-year term. Community Action Program Committee has 2 1-year terms. Council on Aging has 1 unexpired 3 term and 1 unexpired 3-year term that they end a year apart, 2022, 2023 in June. They have 1 3-year term and 5 associate member positions that are staggered in 3-year terms. The Cultural Council has 2 3-year terms available. Holiday Decorating Committee is looking to fill 2 1-year term seats. Parade Committee accepts, they're looking, all applicants are welcome to apply 1-year terms. They end each July 31st of each year. Public Celebrations Committee has 5 1-year terms. Recycling Committee has 1 1-year term. The Tree Committee has 1 unexpired 3-term and 1 3-year term. If you're interested in serving on any town board or committee, we're asking you to complete an online application at the town website. Or if you have any other questions or want more information, you can reach out to the town manager's office at 50 Billerica Road here, or send an email to tmoffice@chelmsfordma.gov, or call the office at 978-250-5202.
Thank you, Ken. And next up, we have the change of manager on the all alcoholic beverages license for Drumhill Liquor Mart.
Good afternoon or good evening, however you may perceive it. Doug Hausler, representing the applicant, Drumhill Liquors. We're requesting a change of managers from Phyllis Gervais to her son Garrett. They're both present this evening. I believe we've supplied you with all the required background information, and we're here to answer any questions if you have such, and if not, we ask for your approval.
Are there any questions?
The hours aren't changing. right?
Nothing's
I just saw
changing.
the kind of strike over, and I was wondering.
That's on me.
Okay, nice.
Okay.
I
if
don't
there's-
see a problem. The kids have been working there forever, so. The kids, yeah. Yeah, he's not a kid
Since he
anymore,
was
right?
2.
State police and.
Take a motion.
Yep, so I'll make a motion to approve the change of manager on the all alcohol beverages package store license for Drumhill Liquor Mart, Inc., exercised currently at 83 Parkhurst Road.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Thanks,
Thank you. Good
everybody.
luck.
Appreciate it.
And next is the addition of outdoor seating for Summer Street Grocers. Do we have anyone here from Summer Street? I'll take that as a no. So the next question would be, do we have any questions where we require the applicant to be here?
Well, they were asked to come. The letter says that the select board would like you to attend.
So why don't we'll go on to
We'll come
the
back to
next
it.
item, and we'll take this out of order if you're able to find someone, John? Okay? All right.
He thinks he can.
What?
I think he was going to represent them.
You could.
He could.
Well, why don't we go ahead and do item 6 while we're waiting for him? So that's the confirmation of the Director of the Public Works. Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm pleased and really excited to bring before you Christine Clancy to be the Director of Public Works and Facilities for the town of Chelmsford. As we know, our outgoing Public Works Director, Gary Persichetti, is retiring Memorial Day, and we posted position, advertised for openings, had over a dozen applicants, selected 5 for interviews, ended up interviewing 4 people, and there was one candidate who stood above all the others that myself and Human Resource Director Gene Pazzielli and my assistant Steve Maffetone interviewed, and that was Christine Clancy, who's here before you this evening. Christine is a Chelmsford resident. She's currently employed as a Department of Public Works Commissioner in the city of Lowell. She has over 16 years of professional experience in the public and private sector, has a professional civil engineering stamp, and has a educational background, including a master's in civil engineering from Northeastern University. I can tell you that the people that I've spoke of, some of who even reached out to me, and in terms of background and reference, speak so highly of her, and I'm just excited for the community that we'd have this opportunity to have Christine Clancy as our next DPW director. So I would invite Christine to come to the podium and introduce herself to you, and respectfully ask your confirmation of this appointment.
Good evening. So I am very excited for this opportunity. So as Paul had mentioned, I am currently the DPW Commissioner in the City of Lowell, and there's a lot of similarities between that position and this position here. I'm excited to join in April and be able to shadow Gary Persichetti. He has so much institutional knowledge in the town of Chelmsford. I am, I guess, very, very excited about this opportunity. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Great.
Okay. Give us a motion then.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve Christine Clancy as Director of Public Works and Facilities to replace Gary Persichetti.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Welcome, good luck.
Thank you.
Paul, what item would you like to do next?
It would be Lisa Maroney, but I don't see Lisa on the call.
Right. Who's doing the traffic committee?
Gary Persichetti come up and do the traffic safety monthly
Okay.
report.
We're not
So-
letting this slow us down, huh?
So, so we're now going to one of the items under number 7, the traffic committee report. There we go.
Good evening, Gary Persichetti, giving you an update. Under current actions, as you know, we're looking at crosswalk on Mill Road in Raymond. This has moved a little further since we sent you this. The grant is filed, and we're waiting approval, which should be out in mid to late April. The pending actions is the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. We're looking at the local bottleneck reduction, which is at Golden Cove and Barica Road intersection. It was submitted for consideration. Since then, we've had a gentleman come out and go through the timing of the lights, and they're doing a review of that, and then they'll get back in touch with us, and we'll be able to move that a little further along. As far as the installation of the portable speed bumps, they're already installed and back up on Ledge Road. NIMCOG will be doing a truck traffic study as scheduled for Swain Road in late April, which we had asked for. And then completion, we have the flashing stop sign at the end of Turnpike and Mill. We also added the arrows at the end that let you to know you go right or left, there's no going straight. That is complete. Ledge Road bus turnaround, Scott's been out there and has started shooting some grades, so hopefully we can get that all ready and get started on that very shortly. Thank you.
Gary, you heard the question during public input about whether we can do weight restrictions on roads. Do you have any?
I don't believe we
Insight
can, but
into
we
that.
will do some more research. I made a note, and I figure this will be part of our next traffic committee meeting. I'll bring it up or send it out as a topic, and then we can get into that and see what direction it needs to move at.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Gary. So, should we keep going, Paul, with the meeting minutes process?
Sure, yeah, I've
Is-
I've texted Lisa and I haven't received a
Okay,
reply.
we can come back
Hope
to it.
everything's all right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, it's not like her.
If you need to step out and check on her.
No, I've
that's-
sent her a text message. I'll
You sure?
see if
Okay.
she replies.
So, Mark, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, essentially what we have is the same documents that were before you at our last meeting with two very minor changes, and one was, I believe it still said Select Board in there, and I edited that to Public Body. And then there was a such or shall that should have been changed to, I believe, I forget exactly where it was, but it was too definitive. It said shall instead of should, and so I switched that. And that's the only changes, other than I put some stuff down in the footer, even though that's going to change anyway, because once this has a home, it may change the name, it may change the location, it may not be a standalone document, it may just be a section, so. And that's it.
And so, Paul, you were going to talk to us about how you would like to implement it?
Yeah, I met with the town clerk, Patricia Duras. She'll be responsible for the distribution of the policy, and then my office, since we're the appointing authority and have the enforcement authority, will be the one responsible for adherence to the policy. So that's how, I think that was probably the best effective way to distribute the responsibilities.
So, Mark and the board, then you envision putting this in as a section into the policy document
Well,
with just a statement? Because that was the discussion that we had last time, is it
Right.
needs to reside in the
Someplace.
policy document or
Right.
somewhere else. And council and I think everyone thought that the policy document was the most appropriate place for it.
Yeah, and I can certainly see the select board minutes, the detailed guidance going in there. It seems like it could fit in there. The other one, I'm not sure. You know, I feel like it's could be kind of buried in there, but I don't know what everybody else thinks. Well, I know, Pat, you had a little bit of a concern last time. I don't know if
Well,
you
I-
have any suggestions on that, but right now, that's the only home that I know where it could go.
I think if it's in, let's just, I forget the numbers, but let's say the next section is section 11, right? So 11.1 is the board policy document, and 11.2 is the overall policy document with a statement that says that the clerk is responsible for distribution and the town manager's office
we-
is responsible for enforcement, and then by
We could
virtue of
do
the
it that way.
policy, it doesn't get buried. But I think the discussion we had last time was there really isn't another place for the policy to live, per se. So, and that way, it would also be deliberately reviewed during each of the board policy cycles, update cycles.
No, that's fine. I mean, we could create a separate section. I also thought, like, the minutes policy could go in section 1 if we wanted to, but I can make it a separate one. We can make it a separate section 11.
I don't remember what section 1 was,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
just, there's some,
I don't really care what the section was.
looks like it kind of could fit there, but,
Is
I
it-
mean, you know, whatever works best. I mean, one thing, I don't remember that you had the Appendix 1 on the last time we looked at this, and I wonder if that's needed, because really, it just repeats what's in Mass General Law.
well, that
so-
was something that actually
It
I
was
worked
there.
on with Paul,
It
and
was,
he
okay.
felt as though it probably made sense to put it in there to
Really?
reference it, yeah.
To reference it or put it in?
It's both.
Well, both.
The
but-
body of the language references it,
Right,
references the appendix.
right. And
Because
if it
there's
actually
several
should-
reasons why you'd need to reference it, you know, with regard to executive minutes
Right.
for reasons to have a meeting and then reasons to continue to withhold them. And we just thought that it would be better to have it here in the document so that people didn't have to go 2 more steps or whatever. It would be, you know, right there and available to them, you know,
Okay.
to look at. So that was the thinking.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So would we like to take a vote tonight to adopt the 2 policies and incorporate them into the select board policy document? Because we still haven't voted on them.
Mhm.
Okay?
You want it as one motion or 2 separate?
Doesn't matter to me. I
so
don't see
I'll-
why it can't be 2. I mean, 1.
Yeah, it should be only be one.
All right, so I'll make a motion to adopt the select board meeting minute policy and the, should we say it's select board or just meeting minutes policy for public bodies? For all public bodies,
Yeah, as presented.
as presented?
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Could we add to the motion to incorporate it into the policy document?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the select board policy, meeting minute policy, and the meeting minute public policy for public bodies, and to have it incorporated into our
Select board
select board
Policy.
policy
handbook.
handbook. I was going to say manual, but
Yeah,
handbook.
well, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion again.
Any further discussion again? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay, and so now we're going to jump back to reports and presentations, item 7.
Yeah.
See Lisa Maroney's
Yeah,
joined
Director of
us.
Business Development, Lisa Maroney, is joining us, and she's going to provide her quarterly update on business economic development in the community. Thank you for joining us, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening, Madam Chair and Select Board members. Thank you, Paul. I'm here to provide a brief update, business development for this evening. Thank you. And yep, so there's my agenda. Those are the main topics of my update for this evening. Thought it would provide some interesting insight to what's going on with some of the town vacancy rates and some other exciting news. So we can on to the next page. Some of you may have noticed the sign toppers. We were pursuing this option as a way to provide a designation for the Chelmsford Crossroads area of Route 129. This effort was paid for by a grant and installed by Barlow Signs. We have 11 sign toppers that help provide a identity and branding for the area. They're just on the main intersections. I've presented this a few times to you, but these were installed recently. May not necessarily notice all of them in your travels. You may see a few as you're moving around the 129 area, but we thought it would be a great way to create that identity in that boundary area and the designation of the crossroads area. So there are 11 sign toppers out there on the main intersections, and just as a start of the beginning of the signage project for 129. This is one of the main signs, one of the master signs that will be installed. It's a V-shaped sign nearest to the address of 187 Billricker Road, again installed by Barlow Signs sometime along the timeline of April 4th, that week of April 4th. And the goal, again, is to put this in an area in the boundary area near 187 Billricker Road to kind of designate you're entering a density area for business development and business tenancy. And the V shape will catch the visibility of traffic moving in both directions, again paid for by a grant from the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. This further emboldens the branding and the identity. And these are some of the recommendations and the measures that were put forward from the site readiness grant done when I was hired. And this is one of those recommendations is signage. So we actually have a scheduling date. It's been very delayed just due to COVID, but also materials delay. This sign will have some reflective paint. There's no electricity here. There's no power to this site, but there will be some reflective paint. So, drivers may see it when it gets a little dark, prior to daytime savings. When it gets dark around 4 or 5 o'clock, you'll be able to still see the sign. And it really just, again, helps announce you're entering a business area. Next page, please. So I thought it would be enlightening to share with you the vacancy rates and how they've shifted over the last 4 years. And I think it's a good story to tell, considering the challenges that we've gone through. In 2018, you can see vacancy was around 17%. A little bit of an unhealthy vacancy rate here, and just slowly working our way to lowering that vacancy rate. And as of last year, we were just close to 11% vacancy. We're talking about 4.6 million square feet of existing space in the Crossroads corridor. I put up some maps there for your viewing. The blue diamonds are properties that are offering available space, and the gray diamonds on the other map show the entire inventory of existing square footage. So with these vacancy rates right now, as of today, we're hovering around 537,000 square feet empty space, and we're getting closer to a market adjustment that happens as tenants move and expand and transition in and out. Hoping to get down to maybe 5% would be the goal, but anything under 10% would be a really great achievement for where we've come from. And on the next slide, you'll see what some of the challenges are in the greater region of where we are. Oh, so this slide I thought would be helpful for you to see the category of the inventory of vacant buildings. So the fully vacant buildings here are always getting interest. And right now we know 270 Bill Ricker Road went up for sale. It's under review. It's under agreement. So that should transform into some new investment, some new ownership, new occupancy. So pretty excited to hopefully share some news about that in the upcoming months. 300 Bill Ricker Road is continually being viewed. They have showings. There's interest in that building. We're hoping something happens with that this year as well. And as we know, River Neck Road is in transition, and that's another, those are the empty buildings. 150 Apollo is empty. That's owned by Farley White. We continue to stay engaged with them. But from where we came from in 2018, we're down to these fully vacant buildings, which are the more challenging of the approach here in creating business attraction and tenancy. 50% vacant, you can see the list there, and then our way working downward to some transition of businesses coming in and out. But I thought it would be insightful to kind of break it down of the empty square footage. These are the properties that are managing those available and vacant spaces in the crossroads. Next slide, please. This chart, this slide I thought would be insightful for everyone to understand where Chelmsford is in the ranking. And this is a community-wide vacancy report. I listed the categories that are being captured for these properties, and then I ran some reports from other abutting communities. They may not be equal comparisons, but I thought it would be interesting to share that as a townwide community vacancy rate, excluding single family homes, our vacancy rate is 7.1% across the board, 8.2 million square feet of existing square footage. So you can see how we rank amongst some of our neighbors and other communities that have similar challenges, better or worse than where we're at. I continue to press on with creating business attraction and bringing in some remaining businesses into those empty buildings. Next slide, please. So this chart is providing a perspective of just office space. And as we know, Chelmsford has heavy inventory on office buildings. And this is how we rate amongst our peers in our region of office space in particular. So you can see this is where our challenge really comes in here. We've got a little bit more inventory than other communities. Our vacancy rate is not as high, but we're not at our healthy levels just yet. The good news is that we have a lot of important discussions happening with some large properties that may continue to work these numbers down in our favor. And as I said, you know, these communities aren't necessarily comparable to what Chelmsford has to offer for business properties and proximities and things. But you can see that the region has too much office space. And we've done a better job than others in trying to repurpose and transition our office buildings into more market demand type of space. So I thought this would be some good insight as to where we are, where Chelmsford is in terms of office space in the region. Next slide, please. I've been lining up some site tours. We've been trying to do this through COVID. There was just too much concern with bringing in visitors and touring. But I was in Triton Systems recently. They're at 330 Bill Ricker Road. They moved over from Turnpike. So that's kind of a wash of empty space. But the difference is that Triton Systems, they're expanding. And they are maxed out in the space that they're in. They're in half the building. They likely could take more of that space. So we're waiting to see what happens with that. But on my business visit last, we really created some great partnerships. The Lighthouse School was on the tour. They are the new neighbors. They're located at 285 Mill Road. And so they're business neighbors, and they've really struck up a great partnership with each other by exchange of providing an internship, if you will, with some of their clients, and they have other clients there that are working from the Valley Collaborative or similar. So it's really important that the entities in the crossroads collaborate together on not necessarily technical levels, but also, you know, some humanitarian levels, and exchanging those, you know, those business contacts and interactions. The Teledyne Fleur, they used to be Endeavor Robotics. They're going on a tour of Triton. They're both doing very interesting robotics projects of what I witnessed. And I thought, wow, these two companies really need to connect with each other. And they're very excited to be meeting up and exchanging and looking at what each of them are doing in the terms of robotics. We do have some very impressive companies in the corridor, the Route 129 corridor. They're doing some advanced research and design and prototyping. The DEI committee in Triton Systems, they have their own DEI committee. So we're matching the town's DEI committee. Will be connecting up with the Triton DEI. They do events and some collaborative efforts. So we'll see where that goes. And other community efforts. Triton Systems is interested to get involved and support the town in whatever else we may need. So we continue to discuss and have some creative conversations and see where that may lead. Thermo Fisher, we are lining up a ribbon cutting, very exciting. This is a really big deal for us in terms of life science and manufacturing, and the true, like a treasure project of truly transitioning an office building into a life science manufacturing facility. So you'll be seeing that in July, August timeline, open house, facility tour, ribbon cutting event. We're really starting to kind of line up the details of this. And we hope to be doing much more as we get further out of the pandemic and into the nicer weather, and be lining up some site visits so you can understand what these businesses are that are in our corridor and what we may be able to do to better help them as a municipality. Next page, please. Press Cafe, we've been really anxiously awaiting, and you can see that construction happening in the outside of that building. I've talked about it a few times, and we can see the drive-through under construction and lining up. They do have an opening date for late this year in December. That's the target. COVID really derailed a lot of progress in many ways, including this project. So just wanted to give an update on Press Cafe. They are still coming, because I've been hearing some rumors that people think otherwise, but they are very committed to opening on 330 Billrick Road on the corridor. And we think that once that happens, we may be able to create more business interest and business attraction once we have our food amenity and some convenience for hot coffee, or maybe some business meetings. There'll be indoor seating, outdoor seating, and a drive up. So just trying to keep everyone updated on that. Next slide. I presented this a few times, the fitness campaign. We've talked about this, and this is a fitness court. It's 40-foot square that provides free outdoor exercise, adaptable to all ages and all levels of fitness, 7 minutes, 7 movements. We're trying to get this project into motion. We've been working on some due diligence and planning ahead. Just wanted to give you an update on where we're at with this. So next slide, please. The site chosen, this map might be a little bit small. It's on Wilson Street, behind the Chelmsford Housing Authority at the baseball fields. This is the practice field. It's not a properly measured baseball diamond. It's used for the infield and some field practice. We've been working in my prior presentation, you can see we've been looking at many areas throughout town. And this is just a refresh that this is the site we've chosen. We've spoken with the Chelmsford Housing Authority as well. Have not received any negative feedback on this site location. These are the financial numbers associated with the project. We are the first community in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to receive the $50,000 grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we have lined up the other funding sources through the community preservation. We'll be going forward in Springtown meeting and see if this is going to move into the next step of implementation. But I wanted to just give a summary of this project and give an update. Next slide, please. So this is the milestones. I don't think we've presented this before. These are the dates that are aligning for the execution of the project. As I had mentioned, the next major step is town meeting vote. April 25th, perhaps, maybe on the second meeting of the 28th. But we're looking for either, interest and support for this project to move forward. And then these are the timelines once we learn more from Springtown meeting what may happen next. This project also, as you can see, is able to be synchronized with the Smart app on your smartphone for workouts, and feel like it would be a great amenity in that recreational area near the rail trail, near the baseball area, and walkable from center and visible from other areas. So wanted to share this timeline here. May 15th, as you can see, is the authorization to proceed, which means that they'll be ordering the fitness equipment. Then that equipment is shipped over to us. It takes about 2 weeks or so for that equipment to arrive. Meanwhile, we're aligning the concrete pad installation for the base of the fitness court. And then the court is assembled, and hopefully, if the community is willing and interested, we'll be having a ribbon cutting for that sometime in August. So that is the latest update on the fitness campaign progress that's been going on. We've been meeting regularly, DPW, myself, town manager, to make sure that we're doing all things needed to make sure that this project has probability of success to be awarded and move forward. Next slide, please. Just wanted to share a short list of business openings since January. This is from January to March. We've had some ribbon cuttings. You may have seen them out in the media stream. Open to anyone interested to join ribbon cuttings. They are public events. We have a few more upcoming soon. The Lighthouse School has taken a second location in the Crossroads area. And Project Compass is independent living. We're doing a joint ribbon cutting with Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. But we've also opened or processed 15 new cottage industry businesses, which means remote or home-based, or no storefronts, but we continue to open new businesses all the time, and my business outreach list is continually expanding. And just wanted to share the progress in the first 3 months of the year. I think it's been a great start, all things considered. And next slide. That is my update for business development in the first start of the year, and interested to hear any questions or if I could provide any more information for anyone.
Lisa, is this strictly a Chelmsford, the project, the gymnasium type stuff, the exercise and everything, is that just for Chelmsford residents?
Well, the focus is to provide an amenity for the Chelmsford residents, free outdoor exercise and just fitness and activity. It is a public fitness court. Anyone from any community can come over if they're on the rail trail nearby, or if they're coming to a baseball tournament. This fitness court there's no membership. There's no limiting anyone. Anyone can come up and use that fitness court. They don't need to download an app. You don't need a smartphone to use it. There are charts available that will be built into the fitness court that you can follow and learn how to properly use the proper formats and things for safe exercise. It's open to anyone, but the focus is to provide an amenity for the town and Center Village.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lisa, I think the trends that you're showing in terms of the vacancy rates are really a positive story. So thank you for all your work with that. And I really like too the outreach that you talked about in terms of trying to help facilitate collaboration between businesses in the area and even between businesses and some of the things going on in our town government. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I'd
Thank
like to
you.
add too, Lisa, and I've said it before, before you were on board with us, we had talked to other business development directors in other towns, and the one sort of comment they all seemed to make was we'd take 8 years once you were on board to see any sort of progress, and the fact that you're making the progress you're making so far ahead of schedule, I don't want to jinx it, but I think it's fantastic, and it's exciting to see, so thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. And you're all welcome to join me on site visits if you'd like me to include you, more than willing to, but it really is, I really feel like we're coming into a good year and I'm trying to line up more visits, more tours. The businesses are responding. They really appreciate engagement with the town on a collaborative level. So they're waiting and interested to hear, what we may need. So I've been creating a little wish list and working with them on that.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
Nice job.
Okay, thank you so much.
Lisa?
Nice job, Lisa.
Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So we have Summer Street Grocers in the Zoom room, so I'm going to go back to agenda item 5, which is the licenses. And I think I inadvertently closed my file, but,
Find it.
sir, why don't you introduce yourself with your name and address, and I'll go look for the file.
Hi, everybody. It's Frank Clancy. I apologize for running late. We had a little dinner rush. We're at 7 Summer Street in Chelmsford, Mass. And we just submitted an application to add some outdoor seating this spring. We want to do 5 tables with 2 seats per table up front. I'm going to add some planters for a barrier. And we submitted all our signatures last week, and everything seemed to be a go.
Are there any questions from the board?
So I guess I just have a question on the barriers, what kind of construction they're going to be. I mean, have you checked with, I'm assuming that maybe the police or fire asked you to put those there to keep somebody from driving up onto the sidewalk. Is it going to be sufficient?
Yeah, so they're I believe you have the dimensions. I think they're 32 inches around and 26 inches high.
20
and
inches
filled
high.
with 20 inches high. Thank you. And filled with soil, they're quite heavy. There's a few on the plaza now that are a different shape. We needed to go with smaller. There you go. Smaller footprint in order to appropriately cover each table and also allow for egress ramp that's there. But fire has signed off on it and found them to be efficient.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the license to add additional outdoor seating to the current Vigilar license for Summer Street Grocers located at 7 Summer Street, Unit 7 and 8 here in town.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Good luck. You're all
Thank you
set.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great homemade pasta. This is recommendation, it was excellent.
Okay. So we're going to jump now back to order. We're at agenda item number 9, which is the April meeting schedule and the LGBTQ plus listening session date.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The April's always a challenging month because we've got the town election, which is a week from tomorrow on the 5th, and then it leaves you with 3 future Mondays, and of course, one's always the holiday, which is the Patriots' Day holiday. So and then you've got town meeting on the last Monday of the month. So the suggestion, and I think it sort of falls on from recent years, is to sort of add an additional meeting before the town meeting, in the month, so to allow sufficient time for the presentation of warrant articles for the board, and also just the uncertainty as to when town meeting may finish. I'm expecting it would take only 2 sessions, but if it were not to, be done in 2 sessions, then we'd really be out there almost like 5 weeks between meetings. So the proposal is to, following the April 5th town election, would be to have a reorganization in this room 2 nights later on Thursday, April 7th. And then a regularly scheduled meeting the following Monday, the 11th, which would be typical. It'd be 2 weeks from tonight. And then again, the following week, because there's a Monday holiday, would be to meet the Tuesday, the 19th. And so again, having those 2 meetings, it would be your 2 April meetings. And then the following Monday, as I mentioned, would be the start of town meeting. So with the schedule, it would basically put you a meeting per week, but it really sort of what happens in April. The reorg meeting the first week, Monday meeting the following week, the following Tuesday after the Monday holiday, and then town meeting on the 25th. So that sort of deals with the meeting thing. I'll pause there if there's any concerns with those dates or conflicts.
Did you have a conflict?
Paul, do you think that April 11th and April 9th is enough meeting time to get through the town meeting warrants and the recommendations? Or do
Yeah, I think so. The problem, the challenge is there's 35 articles, but there's no zoning bylaws and there's no general bylaws. So it's pretty much a financial warrant with a few easements and so forth. So, and that's why it's my expectation that town meeting may only take 2 sessions. So I think the board can complete it within those 2 nights. I think the challenge is not only is the 18th week, the Patriots Day holiday, it's also school vacation week, so that often presents a conflict sometimes with board members because of that week, but I don't know any other way around it. We really don't want to meet the night of town meeting because it's too close. But I think if, you just sort of have those 2 middle weeks to work from, but I'll stop there if there are any questions or conflicts.
I'm not around the 19th, 20th, and 21st of April. Not to say you can't have the meeting, please feel free.
I don't think we're going to have any choice.
Yeah, I don't see a lot.
I might be able to remote in.
Well, the only other option that I could see would be to have, if we just focus it on the town meeting articles, if you wanted to get that done before Ken leaves, is to have one at the beginning and the end of the week of April 11th.
I would do that.
Huh?
I would do that.
I could do that.
So you're thinking like a Monday and a Thursday kind of a thing?
That's, I mean,
I'm not aware of any conflicts on Thursday. Finance Committee will be done, its articles by
well,
then.
I know if I'm here, I have a conflict, but schedule what you got to schedule, I guess. Or we could do Monday, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday's the River Neck, if that
Yeah,
matters to
but-
anybody.
It's a big planning board, right?
We can watch the,
I have a conflict on Wednesday.
we could do Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah, you could do Monday, Tuesday.
if all we're doing is finishing up and voting.
All we're doing is doing the articles?
Yeah,
I mean,
if you want a quorum or as much of a full board as possible to vote.
we could see how we are. I mean, if we finish on the Monday with the warrant articles, then we could still go with the 19th, and then just basically, in other words, what I could
Just
do
have a meeting on
I
the
could
19th.
defer other items if possible, but it's a tough challenge. Because, for example, what comes to mind is what Evan is going to come in and give us an update on the MBTA community legislation, but again, that's really not a discretionary thing, that's a mandatory thing that we have to do, but that's sort of what comes to mind in terms of what I'm recalling what's out there in April. But, so again, you could do, if we want to finish with the whole board to do the recommendations, we could do Monday and Tuesday, but I can deliberately try to keep the agenda clear as possible on the 11th.
About how many hours did it take you to get through the presentations for the Finance Committee?
For my presentations?
No, for the warrant article presentations. They're voting this Thursday, right?
Yeah, they're voting this Thursday
They
when I,
took 2 meetings?
well, but that was detailed presentations from individual department budgets. We're not going to
Which
get
we've already
that.
done here.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. So
Okay.
basically, the night that I went and walked through the warrant with them, I was done in an hour and a half.
Sure. We can do
Just
that.
basically going through the warrant. It moves pretty quickly. And again, there's a lot of article numbers, but it isn't very complex. You know, so I'm thinking we could,
Commit
we
to
could-
a long meeting on the 11th if we need it?
And I'm saying you can have an or you can
That's
schedule an
fine.
alternate, you can schedule an additional date, and if we don't need it, just cancel it. In other words, if you say, hey, look, Paul, it's 9 o'clock, let's go home, we've got a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, the next night or whatever, or, and what I can do is I can deliberately keep the warrant light so that we can get through the warrant, but it's not a,
So you're suggesting hold the 11th and 12th and the 19th?
right,
And then
but I won't schedule anything for the 12th. It's the idea that we would
that'll just be if we need it.
If we need it,
We'll
yeah.
have it published as an agenda,
Yeah.
and we can always cancel it if we get
And
through
that way the
everything
full
on the
board weighs in
11th.
on the articles, but.
Does that work for everybody?
I think you get through in one night. I
Yeah.
think you
I
get-
think
We're
we
just, he's just saying as a backup, because open
Right.
meeting law, if it's not already there, we won't be able to do it, so. We'll shoot for getting everything done on the 11th, but we'll have the 12th there as a backup. And then have a regular meeting on the 19th, Paul?
Okay, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what helps with the 19th is we won't meet the following week because it's town meeting. And if town meeting were to go to a third night, which would be the following Monday, then that would push us 3 weeks until the following meeting. So that's, that's one benefit of keeping the 19th is it doesn't give you 4 or 5, weeks out between meetings. Because you end up having.
And then you want to address
licenses and such.
in that context, because it's going right into the beginning of May. You
Yeah,
wanna
and then
talk
going
about
into
the-
May, yeah, the last meeting, we talked about the LGBTQ plus listening session. Unfortunately, because the McCarthy Idol contest is going on, the McCarthy Auditorium is not available on Monday, May 9th. However, it is available the following Monday on the 16th. So you could do that listening session that night, and then your regularly scheduled meetings, 2 meetings again in May, would be the 9th and the 23rd. And again, what works around that is, before the 9th is the 2nd, which is the buffer for town meeting, and after the 23rd is Memorial Day Monday, which is the 30th. So again, you're kind of constrained by town meeting in this case, and then a different holiday coming out. So that would sort of be the May schedule, would be the regular meetings on the 9th and 23rd, and then sandwiched in between that would be the LGBTQ plus listening session at McCarthy School on the 9th.
Okay with everybody?
Is that okay? Okay.
On the 16th.
I mean, on the 16th, I'm sorry. Yeah, the
You just
16th.
had to be on.
Yeah, that's not,
Okay.
that can't be done on the 9th, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah. So your schedule in May would be 9/16/23.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Town manager reports?
Yeah, half dozen items. I'll try to go through them rather quickly. The first one is since our last meeting, the Attorney General for the Commonwealth announced the opioid settlement, and Town Council Paul Haverty has signed the documents that resolve the claims between Johnson & Johnson and other distributors regarding opioids. The allocation work that municipalities gets 40% of the allocation to the state. And basically, those monies should begin arriving annually, starting this spring, summer. And just to put it in context for Chelmsford, because that's always a question about how much are we expecting, the data that I received today from the Massachusetts Department of Revenue indicates that from the opioid settlement, the town of Chelmsford would expected to receive a total of $664,968. Again, that's over a 15-year period, and how it works is your first year allocation is your highest year, that's $74,780, which would be this current fiscal year. Then it drops down to $39,600, bounces back up to $53,900, then drops down to $56,000, then $35,000 to $40,000, basically the remainder of the period up until the year 2038. And then there are a variety of uses that are permitted under the funding having to deal with opioid use disorder and support and care and prevention of abuse and so forth, which I imagine we'll have discussions once that arrives and it's available with the police department and Board of Health in terms of how the town can best use this funding commitment. So just wanted to formally announce that, the process is proceeding, and again, it's gotten some media coverage.
So for
Yeah, go ahead.
for that amount for this year,
Mm-hmm.
will we have to identify how those funds are used in order to receive them, or is it?
No, you receive the money, and then you've got to report it's almost like a grant program. You receive the money, then you report and you're subject to audit on how those monies were
Okay.
expended. So it's not an application, it's a distribution, but then you're restricted by how the funds can be used
And-
for those purposes.
And if they're not used in the first year, do they carry over to the next year? Do they?
I believe so, yeah. There is a carryover, but there is a municipal reporting, that begins with that. Because again, they want to ensure that the monies are used for their intended purposes of the settlement. The next item I have is the Gradable Homelessness and Housing Insecurity Initiative. There was a Zoom presentation on, I believe, Virginia, you were on that a month or so ago, and they're basically really trying to do a regional effort to address homelessness and and housing shortages in the Gradable area, in which they would create at least 300 units of affordable, accessible housing in the region. And why this is on this evening is they're having a development meeting on Thursday, April 7th at 11 a.m. virtually, and what they're looking to do is identify the person or organization for the community who would sort of be the lead. It would either be the town planner, head of the housing authority, inspectional services, select board member, what have you, in terms of, to move this initiative forward. So they're basically trying to identify the primary contact person for the community. So, like I said, I know, I provided you a copy of the presentation from that meeting, and so I didn't know how you wanted to proceed in terms of who you wanted to be the primary contact for Chelmsford for this initiative.
Is there someone on your staff you would recommend?
I mean, it could be somebody like Jen Melanson. It's probably the obvious one, but I didn't want to step on toes of if a select board member had a passion or, but Jen Melanson was the one who occurred to me. But, I mean, there's other capable people who could do it, but I think this sort of falls into her wheelbrick. I mean, as you know, she's done a lot of issues. She's helping with
She's already involved with
involved
these
with
groups,
everything,
too.
with all these groups, between the food pantry,
Well,
the
and
grill.
just to clarify, this is being led by CTI
Mm-hmm. Yep.
with support from a couple of other organizations.
Okay,
and-
okay. All right, I'll assign it, Jen.
Do you have any thoughts,
didn't want to
board
just-
members?
Well, I'm gonna get in trouble for making these comments. My wife's gonna shoot me, but I've always had an interest in the food pantries and the homeless and dedicating time to that. And I know I can't be probably the point person.
But I can put you as a person, can put you on their list.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, definitely.
there's an interest that I would
Okay.
have in that.
And I'm involved in that in my volunteer activities, so I'll probably still keep going, but I don't feel I can take on being the point person for the town.
no,
And I
definitely.
think Jen's much better qualified
And I
for
would,
that.
yeah, I'd love to be there to help back up
Okay,
Jen.
okay, great, yeah, because they do ask us to put others who are interested in the network, so I'll do
Yeah,
that
so-
tomorrow.
And
Okay,
you can
great.
keep me on it too, Paul.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The next one, I just wanted to update the board about, it was something that was originally on the agenda for last meeting, and then it got tabled, and then it did happen. And this is basically a grant application that the town submitted in conjunction with the Chelmsford Water District, and it had to do with the state's culvert grant program. The Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game Division of the Ecological Restoration Efforts put out their culvert replacement municipal assistant grant. The Water District wasn't eligible because it had to be a municipal government of city or town, not a district. And basically, the funding request is $124,000, and this really is for planning and design funding for the replacement of the culvert over Meadowbrook at Watershed Lane in the town of Chelmsford. Basically, that reinforced concrete culvert was installed in the 1960s, when there was only a small garage at that site, certainly not the full district operations that are there today. So we submitted the application, and we're hoping that it qualifies. we made it clear that we're submitting on behalf of the district and so forth. And so I just wanted to formally notify you that we've submitted this, and we'll keep you updated. We expect a decision probably by end of summer on this. And then if the district does get the funding to do the design work, they would then apply to FEMA directly for mitigation monies to actually perform the work that's out there, so. And I attended the water, and Pat was at the meeting as well, the Chelmsford Water District meeting in which this was discussed, and I will say that the district commissioners have expressed their appreciation for the town trying to, step forward and assist them in this effort. Next is I sort of have a question for you. And this has to do with the House budget earmark. With the change in the calendar to April, it's the House of Representatives takes up the fiscal year '23 state budget, followed by the Senate in May, and then ideally it goes to conference committee in June, but certainly by the end of July, the governor gets the budget for the upcoming year. And basically what that means is the question of earmarks for the upcoming budget. We've been successful in the past in recent years, as I mentioned in the cover memo, we received the $200,000 of funding for the improvements to the playgrounds in Chelmsford, in which I think we'll be meeting later this week or next week. George, I saw Brian Melissi today. He thinks he's got a handle. He's been out there and able to do the survey now that the snow's been melted. And then also we were able to get the $350,000 funding for the Chelmsford Water District to assist them with the PFAS remediation. And then the other one that's not as notable, but is certainly is important, is we also received the $50,000 in funding to repair and enhance the Veterans Monument, Vietnam Veterans Monument in Vinyl Square.
That's been done, hasn't it?
And that's it's scheduled to be completed in time for Memorial Day, and to seal a little bit of Regina Jackson's thunder. Given that it hopes to be done by Memorial Day, the plan would be to have the Memorial Day parade in North this year, and then have the rededication of the Vietnam Veterans Monument at the same time. So Joe Erickson and with Gary's oversight, we're looking to see if we can get everything tied together in the next few weeks to meet that deadline. So again, those are the types of things that we put in for earmarks. I mean, again, there's something that's out of the norm, such as the monument in Vinyl Square and so forth. As you can see, the funding range goes anywhere between, I'd say 100,000 to maybe 250 or whatever, depending upon the need. There's no precise formula. I mean, basically, every representative and senator sort of has some ability to submit, and given that the state still has some ARPA funding that they're also going to be distributing, I think there's a likelihood we could get an earmark provided for, even with the perhaps transition of one of our reps. And so I guess I bring it forward to you. If there's anything you want me to submit, we should probably get it to the representatives within the next week, because again, they have the House Ways and Means will release its budget, and then they'll have time to submit amendments, and then it all gets ironed out by the end of April. So again, it's not a rush thing. We don't need an answer tonight, but we need to be thinking of it tonight. And if you have something tonight, it's fine. If not, we could probably do it on the 11th as a,
Can you ask for anything, or?
Yeah, anything that's of reason. And you want it to be, something of benefit for the state. But I mean, like I said, it could be things like PFAS, it could be park improvements, it could be, traffic calming funds. We've had that issue about how do we do enough traffic calming, things like the lighted.
Could you word in a way that we could
limits.
get support for the sewer system?
You could, that could be the
It's on my list,
PFAS.
too.
Yeah, that could be part of the PFAS or the sewer
sewer.
system. Sewer system in terms of what? Because you also have to expend the money by, within the fiscal year. So, I mean, like, we couldn't say we want $300,000 to expand the capacity of the.
So we're doing $350,000 now for the first phase of the diagnostics. What's the next phase? When does that occur?
Be based on the findings, or?
No, it's because I think that only does part of the sewer system.
Yeah, I think, I'd have to check to see what the number is. I think it was significant, but I can check the next phase.
Could you word it around the tennis courts for the high school?
You could. That could be one,
I
yeah.
had that on my list, too.
Be the one that we're going to town meeting for next month, yeah.
I thought you were gonna try to put that other building over there.
Yeah, that's there's the pickleball facility, but that should be privately funded, we're hoping.
Oh, but I mean, I'm just thinking of space.
Or if there's something else that isn't getting funded in the, because
Right.
the school always has things in the capital budget that don't get funded.
Right.
So that was a thought that I had.
Do anything to support the Warren Pole Farm, either parking or?
Yeah, I mean, DPW is working to do the initial parking plan with the Conservation Commission, but that doesn't involve paving and, I mean, it's really not an expensive project, because.
Tick spray? No.
Tick spray, yeah. I was thinking that. I mean, so it's, yeah, it could be anything that's sort of unique. Billerica's got funding for the Yankee Doodle bike trail. I mean, there's all types of things. Lowell gets it for parks. They've done, over years, they've done it for school initiatives.
One of the parks things I thought of was this Phase 2 for Verney.
That could be another one,
The
too.
residents feel
Yeah.
is so important.
Yeah. So again, I just don't want the opportunity to go by to say, well, where did that come from? Or to miss the train as it's
So
coming through.
so if we have any other thoughts beyond what's been brought up tonight, would you like us to try to email you within the next
Sure.
couple days?
Yeah, and then again, I can bring them back for a decision on the board on the 11th, and then that would be time, because, but I just wanted to at least get that out there. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
All
you,
right,
Paul.
The next one is a annual Massachusetts Sewer Rate Relief Fund Award distribution that Finance Director John Souza always submits on behalf of the town, and this year our allocation of the distribution of 1.5 million was $5,645 towards sewer rate relief. So again, I wanted to thank John for doing the paperwork to get it done. You can see our neighbors in Drake got just less than $5,000. The bulk of the money goes to the MWRA, as you can imagine. They get 1.18 of the 1.5, but hey, every little bit helps.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
I wanted to do that. The other, next item I have is, we received formal notice from Verizon on the expiration of their cable television license on October 31st, 2024. I sent this off to Pete Padula and to Special Cable Counsel, Bill August, and you remember we had conducted the joint hearing, so we're in compliance, but I just wanted to let you know, and the community know, that we have received formal notice from Verizon. So again, probably by summer or early fall, we'll start seeing the next phase of, you can see, they always talked about doing the informal, but keeping the formal as the backstop in case it doesn't get resolved.
So what's the process? So then they come back and they apply for license for?
Yeah, basically, and honestly, in today's world, the licenses are pretty mature, and they're sort of an industry that's hemorrhaging in terms of cutting the cord, so it really isn't a very sophisticated process in terms of, where as it really was when this all started back in the late 1970s, where every town was sort of feeling their way through the woods, and the most recent things in recent years were high def channels for cable access. What happens is because Massachusetts doesn't have a statewide license, if Braintree gets one, then all of a sudden that becomes a precedent where you did it for Braintree, now you're going to do it for Newton and Chelmsford and so forth. Generally, it just follows the pattern because, they'll maintain the capital funding. They no longer provide a fiber network that was in the old days before the towns had fiber. So it really is, a lot of it's a formality, but it is a process that we have to engage in.
Yeah, you mentioned the cutting the cord, and I'm just curious, we have the money for the next section for the wires to be buried, correct? Or we have some money that's...
You mean in the center?
Yeah, for the center.
We have National Grid money, we don't have Verizon money. So that's the hangup.
Okay.
Is because, and Comcast would be nothing. I mean, we could get Comcast and cable through the center. The problem is the landlines from Verizon. It's because of the trunk lines that go through the center. And we were talking about it, but coincidentally, earlier today in a meeting. The brook is the big deterrent, trying to get those lines under the brook. And I think even if you put them in a conduit over the brook, that's the big expense. It's in the millions of dollars. And because the funding source for that project under the antiquated state laws is the surcharge on Verizon landlines, is what,
Well, see, that's where I was going with it, and I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, since this seems to be cutting the cord and going down,
Yeah.
could the town maybe put some type of something together to do an analysis of, what would the cost be today, and how other could you raise money to sort of move that process along to continue to bury the wires with this?
One of the answers, and you hate to shut it, some communities do it under community preservation funding. But, we've not broached that here in Chelmsford, but the challenge with using these licensing monies is it really would pull the funding away from cable access operations.
Yeah.
But absent that, some communities have sought to use community preservation monies. And
Has
again,
anybody thought of anything like adding fees to permitting or, to projects in town, or?
you'd have to get a special act of the legislature to do that.
No, okay.
Yeah, and so that's why you don't see a lot of this undergrounding work. Although the phase that is scheduled on the tip, as Pat knows, for the work on Chelmsford Street from the center at Erickson's Corner,
To the baseball fields.
to the baseball fields, that is undergrounding, the
Yeah.
utilities while they're doing that project. So that's how you can get it done. But the big nut to crack is getting through
The bridge.
the bridge, the brook in the center. And I remember years ago, we looked at it, was there a way of almost going through the Oddfellows properties? But that wouldn't work either. And we even looked about going around Summer Street, and the costs there are prohibitive as well. And even if you went above ground and said, get the lines out of the center, we'll go above ground around Summer Street, it was just so cost prohibitive.
Okay.
Because you need to raise literally millions of dollars, and that's the challenge. And then the last item I handed in my report was the sewer system camera and infiltration investigation. Work began on that today. It was delayed a week because of the workers' schedules. But basically, they began today on Tremont Road and Stonehill Road. And again, notices are put on our website, weekly. They're continuing work up on the Dunstable Road area, Ledge Road, Michaels, Hope Street, so forth. And then the next part of the initial phase, remember, they chose the initial phases because they think those were the areas where they could perhaps find the best opportunities to address infiltration, goes from this area up in North Chelmsford over to Littleton Road. So those are sort of the two areas, and we will be providing, weekly schedules and notices ahead of time. It really shouldn't impact residents, because the cammering is done during the day and really doesn't, cause any problems. I mean, if it's on a main road, there's a police detail, obviously for safety reasons, and then the flushing is done overnight, so it's your time of low flow, so you're not causing any disturbances with users of the sewer system. And believe me, even if somebody was having high usage in an individual home, it's not gonna, you've got the capacity, but they try to do it to not have any impact. And so it should go relatively unnoticed.
Paul,
Work out there.
when you had your kickoff meeting, what was like the criteria for where they're starting this in town? Like what is the age of the sewer system in that area compared to like the Westlands?
Yeah, it was the areas identified by Weston and Sampson as those that might most likely have infiltration based on their previous testing. Garrett,
Okay.
you want to add anything?
I was
to
just
the
curious what
discussion?
the criteria was for where we start.
And to add to that, some of the areas are one of the oldest, like out around there is sort of the 40-year-old area, so it's a combination of both. And as we said, based on this, we're hoping it'll help us with DEP as far as moving forward goes, because we think some of the system's so new, we're not going to get much out of it. So it's a lot of dollars spent to get that information. So if this proves to be better than we think, we're hoping we can forego some of it, or at least attempt through DEP to do that.
Thank
We
you.
started over there and worked back, we had to work away from it, right? Right, so that's the oldest is,
Yes, yeah, it's the oldest, and that's why we're working part of that. And the reason for doing, the way we're gonna do it is, if we get to a couple of areas that have, or we need to back off from, we'll go to other streets. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the main drags 1 or 2 days together so that we can get the details all together. We don't want to jump around and do, 2 main roads and then let go of a detail and do the sides, so.
We really won't see the results of a report till the end of the calendar year. So just to put it in perspective, I mean, they'll be filming and they'll be saving and digitizing and, remote, in the cloud film and keeping everything, but you really won't see a thorough report on this until the end of the calendar year. But again, if things develop along the way, we'll obviously keep you updated on this project effort. So that's it for my report this evening. I do have 2 appointments for your confirmation. The first one is for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. It's Lorena Betts of Groton Road, who's seeking confirmation for a term ending June 30th, 2024. And the second appointment is the Historical Commission, Kelly Daniel of Westford Street to the Historical Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2023. Interestingly, she currently owns the Edward Spalding House, which was constructed in 1664, so.
At Kate's Corner?
Yeah, and so she has
No,
the.
that's on Westford
No,
Street.
that's.
That's where she
The
lives.
Spalding House is the one.
No, I know, but which one is it, though?
On Westford Street, 243 Westford.
Okay. I was trying to identify. I know the Spalding, the other Spalding's on the corner,
right.
Stedman and, Dalton and.
Yeah,
I know
there
it.
were a lot of Spaldings
Yeah, I know.
back in 1600, so. So anyway, and obviously she has expensive relevant experience, with, as executive director of the Amesbury Carriage Museum Industrial History Center and the Peabody Historical Society Museum, so she clearly has a focus in historic preservation. So I seek your confirmation of those 2 appointments.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve Lorena Betts to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusionary Committee and Kelly Daniels to the Historic Commission.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye, 5-0.
Thank you to them.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have meeting minutes, the March 14th regular session minutes. Before we take a motion, does anyone have any comments or amendments? Okay,
Then I will make a motion to approve the Select Board regular meeting minutes from the March 14th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second the motion.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. We have one announcement on determination of releasability. The minutes for February 14th, 2022, segments 1 through 3, were determined not releasable at this time. That takes us to liaison reports. Pat?
Tomorrow, March 29th, is National Vietnam War Veterans Day, and the Merrimack Valley Vietnam vets will have a short ceremony at the Veterans Park up by McCarthy School at 11 o'clock. They will lay a wreath at the Agent Orange Stone that they have there to honor the Vietnam vets who were affected by Agent Orange. So that's tomorrow, March 29th at 11 a.m. And also want to congratulate Valerie Diggs. I noticed that she received the Mass School Library Association Catherine Lowe School of Library Champion Award. So congratulations to Valerie Diggs. She spent a lot of time in Chelmsford school libraries and was instrumental in converting the Chelmsford High School Library to a learning commons, which was leading edge at the time, and she did a very good job. So congratulations to her.
Thank you, Pat. George?
I'd just like to, I had a friend that passed away this weekend, Jimmy Robinson, whose family was very active and owned a lot of property and ran a lot of businesses in Vinyl Square for 3 or 4 generations. So the Robinson family was a very, very instrumental part of history in North Chelmsford, and I'd just like to acknowledge that he was a very close friend of mine, but I just want to, my condolences to the family, that's all.
Thank you, George. Mark?
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set.
I just have a couple of reminders. The planning board's public hearing for the River Neck Road development is continued, and it's planned to be continued on April 13th and April 27th. And as Paul mentioned earlier, the Finance Committee will be voting on town meeting articles this Thursday. I don't see any press in the room, so I will take a motion. It is 7:24 PM.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session to consider the purchase of the real property located at 1 Bell Record Road and 44 Central Square, to discuss cybersecurity strategy, to review the executive session minutes from March 14, 2022, segments 1 through 4, review of previously approved and withheld executive session meeting minutes from February 14, 2002, segment 3, for potential release and not to return.
I'll second the motion.
Pat?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Take a quick break.